Have you become a victim of seeing shapes in the clouds? Hi, and welcome to the Law Simplified, the world's largest independent online law school platform. I'm your instructor, Shaveen Bandad-Nayakan. Ever so often, you and I, we tend to get quite paranoid at times the most insignificant things. You add into the equation being a law student, someone who's going through case law, legislation, even scenarios left, right and center when it comes to tutorials and workshops, that paranoia exponentially increases. If you like the type of content that I make on this YouTube channel, do subscribe to the Law Simplified and leave a comment below of what other types of content you'd like to see. If you are a first, second or third year law student, I would highly recommend enrolling in the comprehensive online law school platform, complete with theory, tutorial and workshop lessons based on the actual one-on-ones that I've conducted with first-class law students globally. A common pitfall that most law students tend to fall into is to see shapes in the clouds. What do I mean by this? They tend to look at scenarios, particularly fact pattern situations, and try and incorporate or infuse factors which are not there, or take out of context things that are already existing and factually being presented. There are many dangers of doing so from an examination standpoint, and I want to show you one quick example of a situation in which most students, at least the ones that I have provided feedback reports for, constantly fall into. Now, before you consider this scenario, take a moment and recognize the fact pattern that has been presented to you and assess whether you yourself are putting things into it. So, a typical circumstance would be Amanda was being treated for depression by Dr. Connolly. Amanda later died. Investigations later revealed that the medication prescribed to Amanda had a 20% likelihood of becoming allergic. Right. Now, having had a moment to digest, so to speak, what you just read, think about it for a minute. Do you feel Dr. Connolly is liable for Amanda's death? Do you feel that he has breached his duty as a medical professional? Now, if you're siding on the side of yes, he is liable, the chances are you have made a few assumptions. You have essentially seen a few shapes in the clouds, quite notable of which would mean that he had some form of knowledge as to the allergic reaction being at least possible 1/5 of the time or 20% of the time. But have a look at that scenario again. Do you see anywhere that it has mentioned that Dr. Connolly was aware of the likelihood of this allergic reaction? Now, granted, if that was the case, that would amount to a breach of the duty, since he ought to have mentioned it to Amanda prior to administering that particular medication, so that Amanda would have the most informed consent that she could provide, since she has all of the necessary information to make the decision. But by not indicating that in the question, the examiner is not anticipating for you to assume that it's there, nor that it's not there. But what you ought to have done is to recognize that something like that would be necessary to determine if breach has essentially occurred. In other words, the lack of such information should be indicated to the examiner. But if you presume that it's there or not there, that's when you're seeing shapes in the clouds. This is why quite often I have ad nauseum told my fast track and masterclass students that things in a question are there for a reason, things which are not there for a reason. So, to recap, things in a question are there for a reason, things which are not there are also not there for a reason. Don't over speculate. make sure that you look at, with a fine-tooth comb, the facts that have been provided to you by your examiner. Never put anything into a question, never take anything out of context either. It is as much a test of your ability to recognize what's missing as it is to determining how what is present is material to your outcome. That being said, until the next time that we meet, have fun, stay safe, and as always, obey the law.